Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the first episode of FPS Professional Career Podcast. We named it after the letters of FPS, uh, Friendly Professional Storytime, with the purpose to equip our members with industry insights and skills that can help them going into the industry and help them find a job and land a gig and feed themselves. Today we have our
goals.
Always the goal, feeding ourselves.
always. Yeah, so I'm Tiger. I'm currently the president of FPS 2019 to 2020, and my co-host is
Caitlin. You guys know me. I'm the director of external affairs, and today we thought we'd talk all about networking. So hopefully with this episode, we're gonna talk about how to not just make contacts in the film and entertainment industry, but how to make the right contacts and how to keep those contacts. And helping us do that today is Michael Masukawa. Yay! So some of you have already met Michael. He was on our career panel that we held last quarter. And in fact, he helped us organize the entire thing. And we're so grateful to him for that because it was pretty much a success. And I think a lot of you guys enjoyed it a lot. So currently, Michael is the director of strategy and business for Secret Location, which is a VR and AR company, and it's owned by Hasbro and Entertainment One. And guess what? Michael is also a fellow Bruin. He graduated from UCLA with a degree in history and a minor in film. So welcome to Michael, and thank you for being here.
so much.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, how are you doing, Michael? How's today going? Before the podcast,
It's good. With on lockdown, I just take that commute time that I would have had for work, and say what can I do with it? So with an extra hour and a half each day, am I watching another movie? Am I exercising? Probably not. Or am I playing a game or writing something? So I think although it's a difficult time for everyone, I just encourage you to think, hey, with this extra time, maybe you could achieve more. So that's the way I look at it.
Right. I feel that. So in talking about this dealing with extra time, kind of time management, when you were in college, in the last few years of college, you probably have more free time as the course load becomes lighter. How did you get into the first few internships? What are some tips? What are some stories that you can share with us that helped you get into your first few internships, first few paid positions?
Yeah. The challenge with getting an internship is having a resume that doesn't have any internship experience. So that was kind of the initial barrier I faced, and through kind of the UCLA TFT internship career portal, I was able to apply to stuff, and I got some interviews, but kind of the first time applying and interviewing, I didn't get anything. The lucky way that I actually got an interview was I went to a family friend's dinner, where I was one of the only two 20-year-olds at this dinner. I just kind of wanted to, so my friend wouldn't be alone. And at that dinner, the birthday woman had walked a marathon for breast cancer research with the VP of the story department at Columbia Pictures, who just happened to be at this dinner. So my dad, I guess was talking to the other adults at the table and said, hey, you should go talk to her. And I just kind of had a quick pitch. I said, hey, I'm going to be a junior at UCLA next year, and I've been looking for an internship, and just wonder if you know of any opportunities at Sony. So she referred me over to the story editor that worked in her department, and I interviewed with him. In the interview, I happened to recognize an obscure Japanese movie poster in his office, and he liked that I knew the film Ichi the Killer. So that helped a lot, and then ended up landing that first internship come fall junior year. And then once you have your first internship, it's a lot easier to get the next one, and so on and so forth.
So what I'm hearing is that watching weird, obscure films does help in the end.
It does, yeah.
So, kind of a add-on question for that is, in some members' cases, they already have one internship in sophomore year, even in freshman year, and then during the following sophomore and junior year, they didn't really do any industry internships. They did freelance, they worked on their own films, and then senior year rolls around and they're kind of freaking out because they already had the first unpaid internship, but they also have been out of the industry, out of the loop, out of the networking loop for 2 years or a year. How did they transition from the first unpaid internship to a hopefully paid internship next?
So one of the things of being an intern is, I did mine for school credit, and because you're doing a lot of the grunt work, filling the copy machines, washing the dishes, doing a lot of that stuff, I think a lot of the assistants and people around the office kind of feel indebted to you and they want to help you out. So a lot of internships I got were just people I worked for referring me to other internships. So um, my second internship was at Red Wagon, a production company that used to be on the Sony lot. So when same story editor that I interned for at Columbia Pictures referred me over to them. He referred me a little too late, so they were full at the time. But then I applied again later on my own, and yeah, just with a good resume and by following up a lot, I was able to get that second internship. And then with the third one, I had an assistant I interned for, and he was just very helpful. He just said, look up your 5 favorite films and see who those production companies are. So I went on IMDb and I looked up The Departed and different films like that, and I was like, oh, Plan B, Brad Pitt's production company. I want to go work over there. So the way I got that was literally he just forwarded my resume to an assistant he knew at Plan B, got me the interview that way, and then it was on me to get the ad internship. But I would say that if you had an internship and it was a year ago, 2 quarters ago, 3 quarters ago, if you're just able to stay in touch with the people you work with, and say, the way I would do it is either I would say, hey, I'm applying for other internships. Can I put you down as a reference? That'd just be an excuse to email the person and let them know I'm still alive and still pursuing internships. So that was one good way to keep in touch. They're also very, if I came to them with a very specific ask, like just saying, hey, I'm trying to intern at this place. Do you know anyone over there and could forward my resume? That's something that people are very willing to do. And the more specific the ask you make, whether you just list 3 companies, your top 3 companies or something like that, the easier it is. If you are asking the person, hey, I need an internship, have you heard of anything? That's just not very specific. And it's not really easy for the person to help you. So the more specific the ask you can make, the easier it is. Another way to kind of keep in touch is if you just kind of follow the trades and you see that the company you interned at has produced another movie or has a show coming out or optioned a book or got something into development, I usually just email them and say, hey, saw the news article, congrats, looks like a cool project. So you're not asking them for anything, you're just keeping in touch and giving them a little kudos for doing something. So that's another nice way to keep in touch with people.
Gotcha. And these are great advices about kind of maintaining that relationship, that network. But when you were in the internship, the first 2 internship, how do you balance between kind of not being too pushy, not always being in someone's face, but also being direct and expressive enough so that you get what you want without being too pushy? Do you have any advices?
I think it just starts with doing the work. So I had a lot of interns who didn't want to fill the copy machine, who didn't want to put away the dishes. So I would do some of the tasks that other interns were either too lazy or just kind of didn't really want to do. So if people see you walking around the office and actually doing those things to make their lives easy, that's kind of number 1. Number 2 is a lot of these internships you'll be doing a lot of coverage. So that is reading a script, a book, watching a film, whatever, and kind of giving a synopsis and then your thoughts on why this project is good or not. Most of the time it's going to be a pass. So being able to kind of smartly say, why this isn't worth that person's time to review is what you're doing most of the time. So if you get good at coverage and you really get this person's trust, whether it's an executive or an assistant, then that's how you kind of get a good relationship with them. And that person, depending on how busy they are, you might have lunch with them at some point. You might, at the end of your internship at 5 p.m., maybe the days slow down a little bit. They might be willing to sit down with you for 15, 30 minutes, have a coffee and tell you more about their job or more about, what they think about the different projects going on. So part of it is, just being good at, what your intern duties are. And as you thrive and grow there, then they trust you and they give you more stuff to do. So things I did were like, hey, for fun, can I read some of the projects that we have in development? So, I'm doing the coverage, I'm doing the work, but then also for the different projects that we had either going into production or in development, I would just read those and then, either give them my thoughts or ask them questions about it. And that's the way where you get to learn a bit more. So
Gotcha.
it's really just
Yeah.
kind of how much you engage them. And it really comes down to, can you ask good questions? So if you could ask good questions, have a good conversation with them, people will open up and help you.
Gotcha. And kind of to wrap this little section up, you kind of name dropped Rapid's Plan B, and I noticed that you also worked with J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot. How did you get there? What were some of the processes?
Yeah. And then, well, I'll back up real quick and say, like, one of the reasons I recommend working at an agency to start or a management company is because those are big companies with a lot of different agents and managers and a whole lot of assistants. So part of growing my network was by interning at ICM for 3 quarters and then working there for a year and a half. I knew people working for motion picture lit agents, TV lit agents, talent, music, kind of everything. So I kind of got just a big, general understanding of the industry. And then all those assistants over time leave and work at different companies. So, by working at ICM for 2.5 years, my network grew to, knowing people who worked at ABC, Disney, Fox, Sony, all these different places that otherwise, my connections would have been pretty limited. So that helped. For Bad Robot, the way I got that was there's an organization called CAPE, which is the Coalition of Asian Pacifics in Entertainment. Can't remember how I first heard about it because from my first internship, my boss was one of the founding, she was like a board member of CAPE. So she got me my first year membership as kind of a gift. And then I just kept going to those events over time. So I was kind of building my network out there. Met a lot of Asian actors, actresses, directors, writers, some producers, location scouts, just kind of ran a composer who's a good friend now, just kind of ran the gamut. So through one of their networking events, I just talked a little bit longer to the person checking me in, who was the CAPE assistant, and just made an impression on her. So then later I think I connected with her on Facebook or LinkedIn, one of those two. And then I think I just shot her a message and said, hey, thanks so much. It was nice meeting you. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. Because when people are at the assistant level, sometimes you want to move up at the place you're working at, but a lot of the times you'd rather be someplace else. So just by showing that interest in what she was doing and what her goals were, I think I made enough of an impression on her that when the CAPE president became a TV exec at Bad Robot, she said, hey, Steve is looking for an assistant, and I remember you're trying to leave ICM and you're looking for something. So, if you're interested, send me your resume. And if I hadn't spent, 2 more minutes talking to her or something, then, probably would never had heard of that opportunity. So, and then when I interviewed, you don't know if you're one of 10 people or one of 20 people, or you don't know, how the odds are stacked against you. But this is where, kind of the reference thing I told you about came into play. So I had the interview. I'm a little old school where I will, my tip is to bring a thank you note with you. And then if after you go to the interview, if you really liked it, you really want that job, I go straight to the post office and I mailed the thank you note afterwards. So it'll take like another day or 2 to get there, but that's kind of like all the personal follow-up I can do without being too pushy on the person I just interviewed with. You could do an email follow-up. I feel like that's just kind of like, they're getting a lot of emails. So I think, it doesn't make as strong of an impression, and they'll be like, okay, that's nice. And then kind of forget about it. So the information that I don't have is I don't know if I was the first person to interview or the 15th or the last. So to improve my chances, besides just having a strong interview and doing the thank you note, you usually have references, either email or call and put in a good word. This is pretty common in entertainment. So it just so happened I, kind of looked at all my contacts and said, do I have enough people who know Steve Tao and can put in a good word? So this just happened to be I've interviewed for a lot of jobs where I've either contacted my former internship bosses or different people I was working for, and they just say, sorry, I don't know that person, can't help, good luck. This happened to be a time where a lot of people were like, oh, I know Steve, sure, I'll put in a good word. So actually a lot of, I think 3 or 4 different agents from ICM actually called and put in a good word. Yeah, so I actually really overwhelmed him with this. So the day after, I had 4 people call and put in a good word. I knew he was making the decision like by the end of the week. So I think I interviewed on a Tuesday. Wednesday, I had 4 people call in, didn't hear anything. Thursday, I had 2 more references call in, and then a writer who worked with him emailed him, didn't hear anything. And then Friday, I think I had 1 final reference call and put in a good word, maybe 1 more person emailed. And then by the end of Friday, I heard I got the job. So, and he said, everyone else who, interviewed, maybe they had 2 references max, but I could tell you really, really wanted it by having like 7 people call in. So, yeah, just happened to be the right, kind of fit of my network and people who are willing to step up and bat for me and help me get that job. So that really took a village.
Gotcha.
Nice.
And I think we'll take away from here.
Yeah. So one thing that really stood out to me when you're describing your career journey and all these different gigs that you had is that all of it sounds pretty random, but it's actually the result of just intentional engagement with the people you meet and smart networking. And you gave us like tons of tips for that. One thing that I did notice though is that all of the jobs and internships you've done that you described, I think fall into a category that some people would consider as being, I guess, more on the admin side of things, because there are a lot of students, particularly in FPS, who they're really passionate about like actually being involved in productions, being different, fulfilling different roles on crews and things like that. And I think a lot of what their ultimate goal is has to do with packaging and pitching and, trying to get their ideas to come to life. So could you probably explain a bit about how networking results in packaging and pitching? Because it seems like something that's really daunting, but I think networking is really a huge part of like how that comes to be possible.
Yeah. So all the internships I had were in development. I guess the story department supports all of the development executives at Columbia Pictures who are, some of them are in charge of different production companies. Some of them are receiving materials and things directly, but packaging something that ultimately becomes a movie might be someone pitches a book, then you have to find a screenwriter, get a good script, then attach a director, then attach some talent, then get an official green light from the studio, and then you're making it. But yeah, the ability to package a story with talent and a director and an IP, all those things come down to networking. So it could be, so I'll give an example here. So there's a comic book that came into me as a submission, and I liked it, so I pitched it internally, and people passed. So, okay, so it's not a fit for the company I work at. But if I want to do something else with it, what I could do is, find a writer that has some credits and, from the writer of Kick-Ass and Watchmen and, whatever those credits are, then, okay, that's more exciting because we'd rather see it executed by that kind of a storyteller. Cool, interesting. Then if it has the director of whatever else. So how am I going to attach these people? Either it's because I know these writers and directors, and maybe they're fellow students I had at UCLA, and years later they have good careers, and I knew them when I was a student, so I could kind of personally call on them and say, hey, I have a cool project, would love for you to get your eyes on it, see if you want to be involved. Or I have to know their reps. So either I know a manager or an agent at these different agencies who rep the talent that I want, and I'm able to convince those reps that it is worth their client's time to develop this project with me. Then it comes down to my relationships for pitching it. So, you could get a package together, but if I don't have any relationships with the different buyers, then I'm never going to get this financed and set up anywhere. So I have to have relationships at Amazon and Netflix and these different places to pitch and sell the project. So yeah, as a producer, as a development executive, it's just kind of building out your relationships of over many, many years. And we all start off as assistants at different places, but 2 years in, there's a number of assistants who have given up and, have left the industry, but the ones that stay are now creative execs. And, 3 years after that, a lot of us are directors of development, or some are VPs and above. So it's just kind of, you build your network of friends and people working the industry, and it just matures over time. And a lot of things in entertainment are trust, built on trust. So would you rather hear a pitch from someone who's your friend that you've known for 4 years, and you know their taste and you know what they like and they don't, and you kind of trust what's coming from them, versus a complete stranger? So that's also another reason why the Hollywood community feels kind of tight knit at certain times. Hope that answered the question.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it seems like whether you're an office assistant, or whether you're a PA on set, like, it's just such a close-knit community, and the roles are so fluid that as long as you maintain like a very close and like an authentic relationship with people, it seems to just like open up a lot of doors for you.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm gonna transition to Tiger. I'm gonna get into some specific tips about like how to network effectively in the industry, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm probably going to wrap up some of the points I've taken from you today, and then ask what you have additionally. But before I do that, I have a little question.
Yeah.
So when looking at your current network throughout the years, would you say the connections you made at UCLA were more important, or would you say it was really the early internships, the agencies that really mattered in the end?
Probably the internships and afterwards. Sorry, but that said, the most important relationships I made at UCLA were in the internship credit course. So of all the other students taking internships at UCLA at the same time, we had like a 2-unit class we had to take every Wednesday night. So all of my friends from there who were also doing internships at the same time I was, a lot of those people continue to work in the industry today. And I could, we had a kind of UCLA alum dinner that, we'd organize every once in a while. We haven't done one in probably 2 years or 3 years. It's probably been embarrassingly long, but yeah, that was nice to have a group of like 10, 15 or so of us who all went to UCLA. Some of us knew each other from that class. Some of us met each other later on at these UCLA alum dinners, and that built out our network. So that was really nice. And then, yeah, some writers that I have worked with also came from UCLA. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but
Gotcha.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go
For
ahead.
a lot of members, they're kind of deciding in between if they want to go into the more administrative producer route, going through agencies, going through assistant positions and climb up. And some of them still are considering just going through the talent route, like present themselves as writers, as directors, doing indie freelancing. What did you have that problem? Did you have that experience? If so, what helped you decide? And what are some of the pros and cons for either one?
Mm-hmm. I know a little bit less about the production route. I just know that it's really, you're going to be as busy as, I mean, that's where networking really comes into play. Do you know a line producer is going to keep calling you back and back? Do you know production manager or a line producer is going to keep calling you back as a PA for a bunch of different productions? Do you, so I have a friend who, she met someone actually through rehab. You never know where you're going to meet someone, but she met someone at a rehab group, and then she became a PA on Bones, like the final season of Bones, and she just made a really good impression there. Then she jumped over to Family Guy, was an office PA over there. That was also on the Fox lot, so she also made a really good impression there. And then when she was in kind of the Seth MacFarlane camp, was able to jump over to the Orville, and then work for the line producer after that. So I think it's all about kind of once you get your first job, can you make a good enough of impression with all the people around you that one of the people around you will refer you to or hire you back for your next job. I just know a little bit less about the PA life, and are you going 2 months between productions and between jobs? Are you going 3 months between stuff? That's where it just feels a little bit more uncertain for me. So that's why I kind of preferred more the assistant route, because although you're not getting paid super well, you are constantly meeting people, learning a lot, and over time we'll build that network that will pay dividends in the future. Same thing will go for production, but I think depending on what you want to do in production, if you just want to be a cinematographer, if you just want to be a master of your craft, then just keep doing production and be a master of your craft, and that's totally fine. If you want to be a producer, line producer, some of these other things, you might want to work on the other side, in development at an agency, stuff like that, and just kind of get a big understanding of the business that will help you in your career moving forward. I originally wanted to be a writer. So working at an agency for me was to, number one, read the scripts that were getting sold to studios and television series, and compare that to my own writing to see, hey, is my stuff really up to par? And should I really be a writer? If it's, not comparable to these things that are getting picked up and sold, if it's not comparable to the existing clients at the agency, then maybe, writing isn't for me. So that was the first reason why I kind of wanted to work on the lit side. And then secondly, I want to see how a lit agent works, and how does a lit agent balance their 40 clients, which clients call too often and talk about meaningless things that really annoy the agent, and the agent's just like on mute, and maybe they're just writing emails the whole time. What do you do to be a good client? How do you get your rep to really work for you? So that was the kind of second reason why I wanted to see it from that side. And if you do that and then later become a writer, it'll just help you in the long run. So either way, I think neither would be a waste of time. So to me, it's just about how do you get paid and pay the rent and stay in LA. If you can't do that, then then you have to leave the industry or have your parents bail you out. But
right, yeah. So I'm gonna run through some of the notes I drew down, some of the kind of the tips that I took away from you, and maybe you can add on to any additional tips, suggestions, or things you have told yourself before. So some of the things that
if you want to do like 2 or 3 at a time, then I could kind of expand on them.
Yeah, for sure. So some things that really stood out to me was kind of, you really have to put in the work. You have to be good at what you're doing. You have to do what, during an internship, do what others might not want to do, and do the things you're supposed to do, like coverage, really well, to the point that you earn that trust. And how about the flip side? What if you had your internship, you didn't really take it that seriously, you kind of lost that trust? How do you rebuild that trust, or how do you restart in this kind of grind?
Well, what I would do is you apply to other internships and, just do a good interview and try to get it. If you didn't do that well at that first internship, then you can really count on those people for references. So
Gotcha.
it's really kind of about hitting restart and saying, hey, okay, when I did this first internship, I didn't really know what I was doing. And if I could go back in time, I'd do it differently, but you can't change the past. So just get that second internship or get the next job on your own, without leaning on the references. Because if you think, you didn't make the best impression on the references, chances are if you use them as a reference, they might hurt your chances of getting that job. So
Gotcha. Right.
there have been situations where,
Gotcha. And you also kind of talk about going to specific mixers and social events to really meet the people. Do you have any more tips, tricks, any life hacks in terms of navigating the mixer scene and finding the right mixer?
Yeah, mine has been just planning them, host your own mixers. So, part of it is, working at an agency or working at stuff, you just ask people, hey, oh, I heard something about a tracking board. Do you know how to get onto one or something? Or you heard about any mixers? So you hear about stuff and people will invite you, and then they'll start to kind of snowball, and you'll be like, oh, okay, I went to this one last year. Maybe there's, the same organization's hosting another one, or, something like that. So that will happen over time. But the thing you can't control is, can you invite, you're the president of FPS. Why don't you throw a mixer and invite, 40 people? And then they'll be grateful that you introduced a bunch of people together. And, that's kind of what I did. So I just found this place. It's since closed down. It was called Steingarten. It was on the west side. It was on Pico. It's kind of like an open air kind of beer garden kind of place. And, you could go
Mhm.
in, you could get food if you want, or you could go outside and just talk and, have a drink. So that was a really fun place. I had a friend who co-hosted with me. And I guess this was when people still paid attention to Facebook events. I don't know if they still do or not. But our first mixer, we started off by just wanting to invite like maybe 20, 30 people. And after like 20 of those people accepted, we said, hey, okay, this is actually looking good. Let's just open up the gates and invite more people. So the very first one, I think maybe 80 people showed up.
Uh-huh.
So that was really cool. So then we're like, okay, next time we go, can we, talk to the location and maybe they give us a drink special or, something like that. Because we're actually bringing a lot of business to this place on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, like if it's
Mhm.
not Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're really helping out the business by organizing a mixer and bringing a bunch of people. So, yeah, we ended up doing 4 or 5 really big, 120 people mixers at that place. My last like really big birthday party, I just made it a birthday mixer. So that was like really fun. And yeah, so yeah, so that's my tip is just, organize it yourself.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tiger, when you plan a mixer, I hope you invite me. I'll be
I'll always
waiting for
invite.
my invitation.
I'll always, both of you. The alcohol will be on me. Well, actually, I take that back. I don't know how much you drink, so I don't know. But kind of in along the lines of kind of planning mixers yourself, how do you kind of balance your
Mhm.
own personal social circle with the industry social circle? How do
And
you
I want
balance
to
it?
wait, can I add on to that too? Like a little before that, you had mentioned LinkedIn and how you used either that or Facebook to connect with someone you had met. And then
Mhm.
another kind of virtual hub that you mentioned were like the use of tracking boards. Could you explain a little bit more about tracking boards, and then probably tying into Tiger's question, just explain like, I guess, the value between like virtual connection spaces and then real life connections?
Okay, that's a lot of ones. I'll do my best. So, yeah, I mean, just for me, it's kind of like, right? Some people have trouble remembering faces. Like, okay, cool, I met you at a mixer and whatever. If you don't like add that person on Facebook or LinkedIn later, then you might bump into them again 6 months later and be like, I met this person, and then it's just either embarrassing that you can't remember that person's name. You make a bad impression if they remember you, but you don't remember them. Um,
Mhm.
Stuff like that. So what I do is when I'm at a mixer, I will take notes on my phone and really go talk to you, get an understanding of what you do, write down your name, ask for your email or phone number or both. Maybe jot down a note. Okay, Tiger, aspiring director, guy's contact info. Okay, next person. Boom, Caitlin. Okay, she wants to do publicity, marketing. Okay, next person. So I'll have like after a mix, if I go to a good mixer and I meet 10 new people, which would be great. Um, then I have some follow up. So I will actually have an Excel doc where I keep pretty much everyone I know in entertainment, and it's grown over the years. So I do name, the company the person works at, their current job, um, former companies, because later on it might be like, oh, I really wish I knew someone at ABC. Control F. Oh, this person used to work at ABC. Maybe they'll refer me to someone that they know over there. So,
Mhm.
and people switch jobs a lot. So it's good to just kind of. Also, I was just kind of seeing the path. Like, is someone an assistant at 4 different places before they get bumped to CE, or does one person work at the same place for 2 years and they get bumped up? What's faster? So I was kind of tracking a little bit of that.
Mhm.
Now with LinkedIn profiles, people just kind of have it all spelled out, so you don't really need to track that anymore. But that was kind of for my own kind of learning.
Mhm.
Then I do have a section for notes, like if okay, I want to read Tiger's script. He said he's writing something. I want to read it 2 months from now. And then I do email and phone. So that way, yeah, if I ever lost my contacts, number one, I could get this from here. I was working for I was working for an executive who got let go, and all of his contacts were in Outlook, and he was like, "Oh no, I don't have my contacts anymore." So I don't ever want to be in that situation. So that's why I just keep it as an Excel doc for myself that I'll have no matter what. So that was one reason doing it, and then yeah. So anyways, and then after the mixer, I actually will try to email all 10 of those people, whether it's just like, "Hey, it was really nice to meet you. Wish you the best in your directing career. Uh, hope to see you at the next mixer. Like whether it's just as simple as that, or whether it's actually something actionable where it's like, hey, you mentioned there's that TV show that you recommended to me. I tried looking it up, but I couldn't find it. What was the name of it? And then maybe they'll send you the link, and then you kind of start building relationships and friendships that way. So that all that stuff is very intentional. And then, so that's just kind of like just keeping track of people is important. And then beyond that, I kind of forgot the rest of the question.
I think you answered perfectly Caitlin's question, and I think kind of adding on to that, connected to that, is once you have created this professional network, how do you balance your own kind of social network, your own personal, like who would you cry to, who would you get a beer at party with, and the professional network?
Yeah, so I'd say it grows to be both. So the best tracking board I am on was just a group of friends that we all saw each other at different mixers, they didn't work at the same companies at all. But then we so a tracking board is really a Google group. It could be 15 people, it could be 300 people. The bigger it gets, you can send out an email asking for something, and it's more likely that someone will have that information. But the less sometimes the less helpful it is, because for a big tracking board, I'll say, hey, we're looking for a new, job postings are really good. I will get, a lot of resumes, a lot of submissions if I'm trying to find someone. I was at a company where I helped find like 3 of the assistants that we hired just by posting on the tracking board. So it was really helpful. But smaller ones, you could kind of share information more freely, and it's more secret and stuff. So people are kind of more open with stuff. So over time, I'd say that if you work in an agency, it might be your friends in the mailroom. If all of you go through the mailroom together, sometimes you all become friends. Sometimes if you're working at a production company, it's just you and 3 other assistants, and the 4 of you might all become friends. My wife, she started at NBC as a page, and she worked in the same department for a while. So all of the coordinators in that department are very close friends, and we just all went to Magic Castle together a few weeks ago. Pre-COVID, so I don't remember when, but we all went to Magic Castle together. I got to be +1, it was nice, but even they still keep in touch with each other. So your friends in the industry will become like your closest friends over time. Still, I still have friends from like high school and stuff. I grew up in Long Beach, so geographically close enough to my close childhood friends, and I still go down and see my parents, see them, hang out, and that's how I kind of keep those friendships up. But it is good to have non-entertainment friends who are objective, and you could just say, is this good or not, without them kind of having kind of inside interests and stuff like that. So it's important to have both. But
Nice.
Thank you so much. And I think Caitlin will take it away with the last part.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely told us a lot of good tips and like things that we definitely should be doing. So I'm going to bring up the hypothetical, probably most likely definite situation of Tiger's mixer that he's going to host. If I go to this mixer, what are some things that I should avoid doing when trying to network?
Yeah. So for me, kind of the intentionality of the networking I was kind of talking about earlier, I just want to touch on for a moment. So when you go to a mixer, sometimes they'll be like, oh, I don't know anyone here. So you could talk to a few people, or maybe the first person you talk to, you're just talking to them for a very long time because you're just trying to get comfortable there. I would kind of caution against that. I would try to say just not to spend too much time with any one person. Cool, you talk to the person, you made a connection, you learned some things, got their contact info. Okay, move on. Talk to just although it's it might be out of most people's comfort zone. The point of dragging yourself out to a mixer is to meet a bunch of new people. So just kind of I would just recommend being time efficient and not being a wallflower and talking to someone for too long. The other thing is, as you go to enough of these things over time, and especially if you go to the FPS mixer, it'll be full of a lot of people you already know. So eventually you got to the point where I go into mixers and I'm just catching up with people I know, and there is value in that, but if you can easily talk to those people, then it's kind of like, I could just pick up the phone, email, or call them when I need to talk to that person. I don't need to spend the entire time catching up with all these people. So actually met my wife at a mixer, and when I went there, I wanted to talk to her, but I didn't want to frighten her and scare her off. So I spent the first part talking to a bunch of different people I knew, and I almost did that for too long because she was about to leave. Luckily, a mutual friend of ours introduced us right when she was trying to walk out the door. So that worked out. But other advice is, kind of what I just said. Don't be super drunk and creepy. I think it's just kind of a shyness thing where it's you go to a place, you don't know anyone there. The temptation is to get a drink or two or more and open yourself up, and then okay, now I could go talk to strangers. For me, either as a student or as a assistant, you don't have that much money, so I just get one beer that's in a bottle, so you could take a very long time drinking it, and even if it's empty, just hold it, and then just keep getting water afterwards, so then you don't spend too much money on drinks, and also just so you don't get drunk and sloppy. Because then if you get drunk and sloppy, then you're not going to be as crisp with your conversations. You're might make a bad impression on people, and so on and so forth. And then what else do I have here? That's kind of, I guess the other thing is just how you talk to people at mixers. Part of it is learning. I think you'll get better at this over time, but it's just learning how to very succinctly introduce yourself and make an impression. So, my name's Mike. I guess I would start hey, I'm Michael. I work in the mailroom at ICM, and I want to manage writers, or I don't know what you say. It's just something where, you do kind of a quick pitch of yourself. So, learning how to do that, and then balance enough with asking questions of the other person and learning what's actionable. Is this person writing something that you can read and give notes on? Is this person acting in something and you can go to their improv show and watch it? Is this person working at a company you really want to work at down the line, so you want to learn more about what they do and make a good impression, so that if one of their coworkers leaves, they might tell you when an assistant position opens up there. So there's lots of different ways that you can engage with someone. So it's just kind of about figuring out what that is, writing down in your notes, and then moving on to the next person.
Nice. I think just the way you started off describing the situation induced a lot of anxiety for a lot of future listeners to this, but you definitely got in with the more actionable agendas and the conversation openers, and I think it's definitely not as daunting as it probably seems. So just want to reassure all our listeners, you can do it. We believe in you. Tyler, do you have any clarifications?
I have one more thing I'll jump in with.
My bad.
I would just encourage you to think of everything as a networking opportunity. So whether it is a game night that you go to with friends, I met a couple good friends who are actors and stuff that I've gotten learned a lot of stuff from just from a friend's game night. I have gone to panels and screenings, film screenings, and that has been good networking opportunities. Specifically for panels, I was going to say that sometimes the panelists are, because they've already been generous with their time to show up and do a panel. These people are also probably more likely to, if you actually talk to them after the panel and get their email and then email them afterwards, they might be more likely to either do an informational phone call or a coffee with you at some point in the future. So once I got to a certain point at ICM, I would go to panels. I would have everyone's contact information anyways, because I worked at an agency and all that stuff was easily available. So I would just try to talk to a few people, a few of the panelists afterwards, and then I would email them and say, hey, if I didn't talk to the person, I would say something like, hey, thanks so much for speaking on the JHRTS 35 under 35 panel last night. Really enjoyed the piece of advice you gave about, and then say something specific that that person said. Also, when I go to panels and everything, I'm always taking notes. just so I could do this good follow-up email afterwards. So the good follow-up email, yeah. So thanks for giving me advice about this. If you have 30 minutes, or yeah, either sometimes you make it seem like a small ask, or if you say, yeah, if you have a little bit of time to grab a coffee with me at some point in the future, I would love to chat and learn more about what it's like to be a network executive. Just something simple like that. Tended to yield good results. So yeah. So anyways, that was just another yeah. Here's the piece of advice is just to think of everything as an opportunity to meet new people.
Mm-hmm. And
Oh,
does that
actually, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
mean,
No,
go
you go,
ahead.
Tiger. Okay, wait. So everything is an opportunity to network. That's so true. But I think right now, those opportunities may seem very limited because you can't really go
Mhm.
to a bar and meet people or anything like that,
Mhm.
unfortunately. But yeah, how can people network like right now, from the comfort of their own homes? Like, are people in the film and entertainment industries, are they typically receptive to like cold emails and things like that?
Some people are. It always helps to have an introduction. So it always helps if you intern for someone and then that person connects you to someone else. All the time, I really like to help people by um, connecting them to other people that they wouldn't be able to reach otherwise. So yeah, that's also how your network can grow, is just asking other people to introduce you to other people. Yeah, it's tough. I was invited to like a virtual mixer. For me, I don't like I mean, this group Zoom thing is cool because it's the two of you. But if I was on a group Zoom for like a mixer and I want to have a side conversation with Tiger, I can't because I'm talking to everyone right now. That for me at a mixer, yeah, when I'm in a group, I don't want to just stand in a circle with like 5 people and listen to one person talk. I'd rather talk to the person right next to me. Hey, Caitlin, and make a connection with you. I don't want to um, talk in front of 5 people. So yeah, so kind of yeah. So I don't really know what the solution is right now, and that something I think if someone figures that out, that'd be really cool. I don't know if you have any cool coders on your side, but if someone makes a kind of like virtual coffee app where I mean, I guess maybe it's speed dating, but instead for networking, but instead you do something where it's like 20 people go into it, and then it does like a 3-minute Zoom chat with each person, and you go cycle through, and maybe that would be like a virtual mixer. So if someone figures out how to do that, I think that'd be really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I really hope all my professors heard exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Well, I think that should wrap it all up. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for blessing us with all these tips and this
Yeah.
great business idea that we may or may not take on. And
Mhm.
yeah, thank you so much for all the help you've given us for this episode and for the panel before. Thank you so much. And for our listeners, thanks for tuning in to our first episode of Friendly Professional Storytime. And
Yeah.
if you have questions for Michael, let us know and we will reach out. And is there any last words, parting words, Michael, you would like to share with people?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you for having me in the pilot episode, and go Bruins.
Yeah,
Go
go
Bruins.
Bruins. And
Yeah.
if anybody has like ideas of like um any other topics you want us to talk about in these podcasts, we're super happy to do that, and we're gonna start looking for other guests to bring on here because I think this went really well, but I'm gonna be really excited to hear feedback. And to all our listeners and to Michael, thank you again. And I guess we'll see you guys at Tiger's Mixer after this pandemic blows over.
Michael's drinks will always be on me. Not sure about Caitlin, but